Hello and welcome to another Pauper video. I'm Kalikaiz. Today we're going deep on the Magic Online Leagues. We're checking out what happened in the metagame for the past week, what are the spiciest hex that people are putting into their top decks, and what are the spiciest decks that managed to 5-0. Before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, leave me all those good things. Check out patreon.com/Kalikaiz if you want sideboard guides for decks that I know how to play, that I like to play. Make sure to join the YouTube membership at the join button down below if you want early access to videos like this one, like the spicy leagues that I've already recorded. All right, let's get into the metagame. So the first thing is that Mono Blue Terror once again on top. This is sort of a surprise, as the previous week we had Mono Blue Terror not really anywhere to be found, but we had a couple of days where Terror had huge trophy counts. They had 6 and an 8. In the most recent. Yeah, a day of 6 trophies and a day of 8 trophies. So really pushing their numbers up that way. And it averages out over the week, right? Second place, Mono Red Madness. Then we had a Resurgence of Spy combo. Rally Red in 4th. Then High Tide at 7% of the trophies. A few players having very good success. Mono Blue Fairies, then Black Sack. Nothing else really surprising. I guess one of the surprising thing is Gen Wildfire really fallen off. We also have Red Black Madness almost not played whatsoever. White Weenie really just barely holding on as well. Overall, the metagame looks kind of stable and not too much to say. It's not like we're like clamoring for any metagame specific bans right now. I know people just had an announcement from the PFP that they were going to not announce what their changes are, that they are punting it again to November 10th. We'll see if Tide is something that's considered to be a problem. I do want to say, if you think that you are slow playing High Tide and you want specific tips on improving your paper play, definitely hit me up on Discord. I feel like I've did a good job with that, as I managed to top 8 the MagicCon Atlanta with High Tide, and my opponents were unhappy, but not miserable, I think. So let's go ahead and get into some of the sweet decks from the week, from the 5th to the 11th. So the first one I want to check out was Mono Blue Terror from Purgatory 01. I believe this person is an Italian player. Let's zoom in a little bit. So the interesting thing to me, they've got one Murmuring Mystic in the main deck, which is not entirely standard. They have 3 Demon Inferiors with 2 Sleeps of the Dead. And then the sideboard tech is interesting because they have 2 Gutshot split with 2 Piracy Charms. This means they have 4 interactions for 1 toughness creatures like elves, but they also can make their creature unblockable because Piracy Charm gives a creature Island Walk, or it gives it +2/-1 until end of turn, or target player discards a card, which could potentially be pretty good. The next deck I wanted to shout out was Kalikaiz. This doesn't look to be too weird. It's a standard Kalikaiz deck. Probably good if you want to be facing some Mono Red Madness Burn players or even Terror players. I think it's probably well positioned there, which may have been the reason for the resurgence in it this week. I don't see anything too spicy. They have Envelop in the sideboard. They have a Singleton Relic, a Singleton Breath Weapon, some Fiery Cannonades for budget purposes, most likely. The next deck I want to check out was Boros Synthesizer. So Lindoso 01. They're basically the Magic Online Boros Synth master. They're the person who you always see in the rankings, Lindoso 01, Lindoso 01, just getting it done constantly. So if you want a Boros Synth list, definitely copied this one. They've got a Radiant Fountain in the main deck, Windscarred Crag, some random life gain essentially, 4 Lembas for life gain. This is one of the decks that is pretty tough to beat with Mono Red Madness Burn if you're not going too big. Speaking of Mono Red Madness Burn, here is a version from, this is Red Black Madness from BNP. And they are playing 6 Kitchen Imps effectively, with the 2 Swarm being of bees. Gives it Mayhem. And in order to fit that in, it looks like they trimmed on 1 Epicure and 1 Highway Robbery. Probably. The other cool thing is in the sideboard here, they've got 4 Dark Withering, which is destroy target non-black creature for Madness of Black. I'm not sure exactly what creature they're trying to blow up. Maybe something like a Terror or like a Writhing Chrysalis. I guess Writhing Chrysalis makes the most sense because then they can continue pushing through their flying creatures. Yeah, that's probably what that's for. Next we have an Elves deck. This is from Cola Cacao. The thing that stood out to me was this elves list is very, very clean. They have 4s down the line. Everything's 4s, 14. Random 2 Elvish Mystics. They didn't feel like going 3-3 on some of these. They have no Well-Wishers in the main deck. So their life gain in the sideboard is 4 Vitu-Ghazi Inspectors, which when it ETBs, you can collect evidence of 6, I think, and then put a counter on a creature and gain some life. They also have Nylea's Disciple and Spinewood's Paladin. Wow, so they are just going straight up kill you game 1 and gain a ton of life game 2. So Paladin gains life equal to your devotion to green. I mean, Nylea's Disciple does that. Spinewood's Paladin, you can plot for 3 and a green, and then when it ETBs, you gain 3 life. With 3 Fairy Macabres to, I guess, wreck some graveyard decks. They also have 4 Avenging Hunter in the main deck, and then the 4 Nyxborn Hydra. It's a cool deck. I like the very clean version of it. Now, here's one of the meta decks with a little bit of tech. This is Ephemerate Tron, a Drowo trophied with this one. They have a Murmuring Mystic in the main deck. This is a win condition. You can flicker for a bunch of birds. They have a Runaway Boulder, which you can search up with Mystical Teachings as a flash artifact. When it ETBs, it deals 6 damage to target creature an opponent controls, and you can cycle it for 2. That means you can search up with Teachings, flicker it to kill some things. They have 2 Crop and 2 Expedition Map, so choosing to do that, plus 2 Cryogen Relics, and then 3 Muldrifters. So they're kind of choosing all their tech pieces here. I don't think anything is too weird. Breath Weapon in the main deck. They have Unwind. There is a combo in Flickertron if you're not aware, but with 3 Urza's Tower in play, Energy Refractor, Weather the Storm, and Unwind, you can cast your Weather Storm and then unwind the copies, flickering back the Unwind over and over, as long as you have a certain amount of Storm, and then make infinite mana, make infinite birds, do the thing. So that's something that you can do, probably not on Magic Online, but I have a video called All About Combotron on my channel, which you can check out. Next is a red deck by Ishanez. This is basically a Goblins deck. I put it in as Rally Burn in the tracking, but it's Goblins. They have just regular Goblin stuff. Bushwhacker, Goblin Grenade, Lightning Bolt, and Fire Blast. It's cool that they were able to manage a trophy with this Sly deck. Another mono red from Altart. This is the mono red rally deck, but they are playing 3 Reckless Abandon, which sacrifices a creature to deal 4 damage to target creature or player. So they're playing that instead of Fire Blast, and gives them basically 7 Galvanic Blast, kind of. So they have 4 Gal, 4 Lightning Bolt, and then 3 Reckless Abandon. Although this is a sorcery, so it's a little less good probably. Mono Blue Fairies from Barf. So Barf is the master of Mono Blue Fairies for Magic Online, most likely. At least the person that plays it the most. You'll see them all over the place. And they've chosen to play an old tech of Smoke Shroud. It says, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and it has flying. And then when a ninja you control enters, you can return Smoke Shroud from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. So this means that you could discard it to your Moon Circuit Hacker, bring in another ninja, so you have a 3/3 ninja that devours. Flying over stuff, basically gets around blockers, something like Wall Spy, not able to block your ninjas, and you keep getting value. Okay, so let's check out some weird Madness Burn tech. This is a Madness Burn from Iantis. They have kind of weirdly stock looking, like some Flame Breathers, some Gutter Snipes, some Snackers, choosing not to play the Voldaren Epicure, instead of playing Thermo Alchemist. They have 3 looting, a couple of the 2-drop draw spells, and then this caught my eye. They have 2 Bitter Reunions here. Now, I don't know if this makes any sense, but it is sweet. You can put Bitter Reunion in play, and then later on, when you play your Thermo Alchemist, it's like a 3-mana Thermo Alchemist that has haste, so because you can sacrifice the Bitter Reunion to give it haste, basically making you able to combo off more likely. I don't know if that's good. I just think it's awesome. So, congrats to them on the 5-0 with this sweet tech. Next, mono red tech is from Captain Tsuba. They are playing a similar kind of deck, right? They're playing 4 Gutter Snipe, 4 Flame Breather, and 1 Fireman Archer with a really, really large amount of draw spells for looting 8 of these and 2 more Sazicap's Brews, and choosing to cut down on Fire Blast. But they also have Rakdos Carnarium, giving them 19 lands, but effectively 21 lands if you can bounce back a mountain. Additionally, that makes them want to pick up the number of fire blasts. So I guess it's sort of grindy, but more combo heavy. And then the final Madness Burn I wanted to take a look at was from Carves. Carves is trying to solve the problems of Madness Burn as well. And one of those problems is Mana Screw and Mana Flood. So they've gone to 19 lands with 19 mountains. They've cut down the 3rd Gutter Snipe and the 3rd Fire Blast from the more stock list and added 1 Sazakap's Brew. So they have slightly more card draw, slightly more lands, slightly less top end, but it should make it a little bit more consistent, which I think makes sense when you're out in the leagues trying to just not run into high variance situations. Here I have a Cycle Storm from Boundaries Blurred. So if you're not familiar with Cycle Storm, this deck puts a lot of creatures into play. You're cycling Drannith Stinger, Drannith Healer, all your 1 mana cyclers, even a 0 mana cycler with Street Wraith, and then you're going to cast Songs of the Damned, making mana for each creature in your graveyard, get a big storm count, and then reap in the graves and bring them all back. That draws you through your deck as you can use the mana from Songs of the Damned to continue cycling your creatures. Eventually, you put the Drannith Stinger into play. You can cast them with Blood Celebrant, filtering the black into red, and just blast your opponent for lethal. I have a couple of videos of that as well. And Dahada's Ploy is one of the newer, not newer, but a version of this list I just trophied with. But we're playing 4 Rowan's Grim Search and 1 Dahada's Ploy. This was something that Blurred was proposing. This gives you an effective 6 draw spells because you have 4, and then this has a jumpstart. And it also gives you the ability to randomly gain life, which is pretty cool. They've chosen to take their 12 lands and split with 8 of the artifact lands, 3 Barren Moors, and 1 Swamp. I guess they are a little bit afraid of Wildfire. Then in the sideboard, they have a bunch of random stuff. Macabre, Elementalist, they said can come in over Scob in a removal-based matchup. You have Chitin Gravestalker, which is like your pivot plan, your own Tolarian Terror, sort of. And Duress, Pyroblast. Gilded Light is a way to give you Shroud, so it can protect against stuff like High Tide, or even maybe Spy. Pretty cool. Oh, speaking of Spy. So we have a Spy combo from Mino Quina. I don't know, that did not sound right to me. But here we go. The main thing in this deck is that they're playing a few Avenging Hunters in the main. The cool thing about Avenging Hunter in this list is it gives you something to do with your mana. Plus it also searches up a land, because the first step of the initiative is to search out a basic, which can basically give you 2 parts of your strategy of searching the lands out of your deck, plus having a beatdown and alternative plan. Really good against like Dirtle decks that are just going to try to wipe your graveyard or kill all your stuff. Actually, Avenging Hunter is very, very good versus Gardens. So if you're playing Spy and you're having a hard time with Gardens, definitely bring that one in. They also have 4 Tinderwalls in the main, which is interesting. They have 3 Gatekeeper Vines, 4 Battlements. So they can really power out that Avenging Hunter quickly. So maybe it's like Turbo Initiative /Spy /Walls. The next version of Spy combo is Alessandro Piricini's Spy. And this very good Italian player who managed to win a Pauper Get-In with Brewscale. They're playing a similar version, same number of lands, but swapping for a mountain in order to play Writhing Chrysalis, giving you that extra plan B. After these leagues, they managed to trophy 2 times with this on the same day, but a few people were discussing this in the Familiars Discord saying maybe you want to play 4 Chrysalis and 3 Avenging Hunter. They also can power out a turn 2 Chrysalis with the Tinderwall, so you can go land, Tinderwall, land, Writhing Chrysalis. That would be pretty sick. Turn 2 Writhing Chrysalis is good. Now here's a Dimir Terror from Carves. This is a version of Mono Blue Terror that's splashing specifically for Sneaky Snacker. So in order to put the Snacker in the graveyard, they have Brainstorm plus Mental Note or whatever. Doesn't look like they have any other discard spells other than a Focus the Mind. But they do have the Contaminated Aquifer, which can cast the Snacker, and then this gives them access to sideboard cards like Nile Spellbomb and Suffocating Fumes. It's very grindy, but it's a pretty sweet way of doing it. Basically, they're taking the Mono Blue, replacing Delver with Snacker for a recursive threat, and being a little bit, maybe a little bit slower, more grindy. Here's a pretty interesting version of Jeskai Synthesizer. This is basically Boros Synth, playing the Cleansing Wildfire to get your blue, with Experimental Synthesizer and Cryogen Relic. I tested this on my channel. It didn't go very well for me, but this person managed to 5-0 with it. And they're playing a hot tech of Torch the Tower over Lightning Bolt, which I thought was interesting because I would have thought that you wanted Lightning Bolt, but Torch the Tower can bargain. So you could sacrifice your Cryogen Relic, gain a card, and kill a creature. Plus Torch the Tower kills Sneaky Snackers forever because it exiles them. It says if it was bargained, it deals 3 damage to that permanent and you scry 1. I guess it can be very helpful here. They have 4 Journeys to Nowheres and 2 makeshift munitions to close the game. Moving forward, Jeskai Ephemerate from Chaotic MTG. Also, I just wanted to point out splashing for or playing a singleton Torch the Tower. And they have a Ride's End. Lots of cool one-ofs in this version of the deck, but no mystical teachings. So they're just cantripping around trying to find their cool one-ofs, because you can reuse them over and over and over with your Ephemerate plus Archaeomancer. Moving up, we have Familiars. This one stood out to me by Giovanni Murakami. So they have all these cards in their deck. They're like maxing out on creatures. They have tons of Meeting Minds, Lorien Revealed, 19 lands, 3 Ephemerate, 4 counterspells. I was thinking to myself, how can they possibly have found space to fit this? Where exactly did they cut things? And then I looked, 76 cards total. That makes sense to me, because over here we have the exact same deck with 1 less Ephemerate. So I think we know how they fit it in. Moving up, we have a Juntron from Jaded Camelot. This is a deck that was sort of popular a while ago, and then Giorgio Combo brought it back. It's just looking to play Gardens, so you're Crypt Ratsing your opponent, you're a Fang and Marauder to gain a ton of life, and you'll eventually Crypt Rats for lethal or Stream of Thought them dead. You have no Campfires in the main deck, looks to be in the sideboard, and you have a really cool card, Wizard's Rockets. Wizard's Rockets can filter all of your colorless Tron land into whatever color you want, helping the Stream of Thought plan and helping the Crypt Rats plan. We have another Tron deck. So this is actually my 5-0 with Eggs Tron. This deck is really cool because you're just kind of spinning your wheels until you eventually win, which can be a very time-consuming process. I've covered this a lot recently, so you've seen it on my channel. The win con is Jace's Erasure. So it says whenever you draw a card, you can have target player put the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. And then eventually, when you deck them, you compulse a research targeting them, making them draw cards. This is our way to play around Limbus and Campfire. I chose to play a version playing 3 Weathers and 2 Scattershots, and in this league, Scattershot was very good. It has Storm, deals 1 damage to target creature, and playing a lot of 1-drops with Chromatic Sphere and Chromatic Star, 4 Spare Supplies, and 2 Cryogen Relic as my artifact card advantage there. Sorry about that. Then just a couple more energy refractors. One of the cool tech pieces is, so when you have Foundry Inspector costing everything 1 less, you now have Conjurer's Bauble Infinite when you have 0 cards in the library, and then you just loop the baubles back and forth. I almost trophied with a version of this previously to a person playing, is it Resculpt Aggro Affinity? And I actually had 0 cards in the library, and they resculpted my Cryogen Relic, and I died in the 5-0 match, so that was pretty sick. And then in the sideboard, I've got Temporal Intervention, which works really well with all the 1-drops. So if you want to play a deck that takes a very large amount of actions, I would suggest playing Igstron. It's pretty sick. The next deck, Glint Blade from Orbuletto. This is actually Esper Glint Hawk Blade stuff. So this is the same, it looks to be the Gates list that did well in a major tournament in France. It's Black-White Blade playing 4 Cryogen Relic, and doing that because of the Gates package, which makes it really easy to play the different colors. So we're up here. This is the top spice, right? Top 5 spice. Top 3 spice is Azorius Control from Antwine 5747 So this player is basically playing familiars with no familiars. They're playing Godfarrow's Faithful to gain life, Dreamstalker to pick stuff up and put it back down, of course Skyfish to do the same thing. They've got Archaeomancer plus Ephemerate. 3 Ephemerates makes sense. They've got 3 Jolted Awakes with 1 Tune the Narrative, 4 Counterspells, 3 Charms. The cool thing about Jolted Awake here is that you can mill over something like Cryogen Relic or your good creatures and then jolt it to wake them back. Moonsnare Prototype. You can tap an artifact to add a mana. Springleaf Drum, another way to get mana. They have Field Mist Border Post. I don't know why this is that good. I guess it works with Abjure. You pay 1 and then you return a basic you can control and in order to play it, and it adds a mana. So it basically like replaces a land in play. This was something actually used a bunch, I think, in Modern with Balance. Could be wrong. I think there's some card that destroys all like lands and creatures, and then you just have your border posts around. But congrats to them on making another trophy with the Azorius control. Moving up, we have a red-green tokens, Ganja de Janga. They were able to 5-0 with red-green tokens. This deck was, I believe, created by Agua Tonificada. I'll link them in the description. They have Cloakwood Swarmkeeper, a small threat that grows, Essence Warden, which I actually just covered a video with this. That will be out either tomorrow or Sunday, so you can check that out in the YouTube membership. But Essence Warden goes hard when you have all these tokens. You have Nest Invader, Molten Gatekeeper, and also Impact Tremors can ping out your opponent, and then you're just looking to plop stuff on the table and go over the top of them. I think this deck could use a little bit more card draw, so Many Partings is good because it gets you a food token, but I feel like there's just missing something, and I don't know what that would be. Maybe like a Faithless Looting or something, but they have lots of sick stuff here, and I'm really happy for them to have 5-0'd. Now, the most spicy list for me was pili-pala. Kuldotha Red or Hugin on Discord managed a trophy with pili-pala. This is your 4 pili-pala, 4 Careful Cultivation, your A+B combo to make infinite mana, kill your opponent with Engine Rat. It goes infinite because this lets a creature tap for 2, and pili-pala untaps for 2 in order to make 1 mana of any color. They're playing 4 Temporal Intervention plus 1 Duress, and then 3 Safekeeping in the main deck. When I played this for a league, which is on my channel, the Urborg's Repossession was kind of cool because it can return a creature and another permanent card from your graveyard or your hand, allowing you to return something like the Vault, the Twisted Landscape, or the Careful Cultivation, kind of giving you a better plan than just like Pulse of Marasa. But they specifically said that this deck is horrible versus Madness Burn. So if you're planning on facing Madness Burn, do not bring this. Lava Dart is a heck of a drug when it beats a 1/1. So that's all the decks that I wanted to cover for this week. Let me know what you thought about my metagame overview. Did you like the spicy tech? Did I ramble on too hard? Hit me up in the comments below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.